Okay, so this is where I'd like to be by the end of the video, starting to block out those thighs and the front and back side of the thighs. I'd like to start getting the glutes in as well, but let's see how long this video goes. So I'm going to just go ahead and load in where we left off last time. All right, and something else that's sort of changed is if you go up to the top here and you go to Edit Preferences, what I've done is there's a couple things. You'll see here that under the key mapping, there's active gizmo, press, and drag, and then there's um, let's see here, spacebar actions, play, tools, search. Those are essentially the same, but with this, you can see under 3D view here, if I click on tab for pi, that was off before. What happens is if I click the tab button in my scene, now I can bring up my hotbox instead of hitting Control and Tab. So that saves me one extra step. So that's something else that I did that's a little different. So you might hear me go from saying, well, let's hit Control Tab to just let's hit Tab and then we can switch over. So that's a little bit quicker than what we had before. All right, so let's go ahead and bring in the thighs. So let's go ahead and take X-ray off for that front view for a second. And pressing Tab, let's go to Object Mode and then Shift A. And let's go over here and let's add a cylinder. All right, now the cylinder, we're just going to place it. So I'm going to press 1 just in the middle here. And I'm going to make it a little bit tinier than my thigh itself. So just kind of scaling that out, zooming in, and I'm, holding control, and then on the front nib of my pen here, something like that, and then scale. And then what I'm doing is I hit S and then the Z key to scale it up like this. Let's go to our side view, press 3. Let's kind of pull that off to the side a little bit. And then let's go to our front view, 1. And then what I'm going to do is I want to bring this back up and I just want to remesh it. And then that's going to give me a bunch more edges and stuff so I can start to shape this out. What I'd also like to do is as I'm shaping, I'd like to go ahead and mirror this guy. So let's go ahead and click mirror. And I want to mirror it across the surface of my torso there. I want to be very close, pay close attention as I'm sculpting to leave a gap in between the two thighs so that when I go to mesh it, it doesn't mesh it as one piece. All right, so hitting tab again, let's go down to sculpt mode. I'm going to press G and just going between shifting and pushing in my grab tool. So let's bring this in a little bit. And now would be a good time to bring X-ray back on. Let's kind of smooth all that stuff out. So something like this. And I'm going to turn X-ray mode on like that. Bring my brush down, pull this out. Now I'm going to go ahead and press 3. Bring this up a little bit. Smooth this out. All right, now that I've got this general shape, I'm just going to fill it all in with my clay brush. So pressing C, just going over this. I don't have Dying Topo on, so something like that. And just going over it with smooth. Don't worry if your brush is a little bit oblong. The reason, like see how it looks sort of weird compared to the rest of my model. I'm actually kind of breaking my own rule here. Let's hit Control and Spacebar. Let's fill all this stuff in. We didn't smooth out, like if you look at our scale and all that other stuff over here under our tool view, you notice that it's kind of off, like our focal length and all that good stuff. And that's sort of why our brush is acting so, it doesn't look like a perfect square. So for example, if I click on, or perfect circle rather, if I click on that versus here, if I go up here, notice how it changes. And then down here, it looks weird. It's adjusting to the mirror. So don't worry too much about that. We're just trying to fill this in because in a second, we're going to go ahead and Same sort of thing. We're going to fill all this good stuff in, and then we're going to boolean it into the upper part of the body. So it looks pretty good. It's in sort of inside there for a second. All right, let's shift control space. And then on the male anatomy here, I'm just going to do the make sure it's in object mode. Let's go back into our cylinder here where our leg is, and let's apply that mirror back into male anatomy. And what I'm going to do here, let's turn this back on. All right, is the same modifier we've been doing before, which is just the Boolean. I'm going to grab the leg. It's going to disappear in a second when we hide our cylinder, and then we're going to turn union back on, and then just hit apply. And going to remesh all that good stuff. And you can see now it is all part of the same model. And what I would like to do is just quickly, we're going to add a couple major things here. Two big chunks here, the knee, and really we're going to wrap this muscle all the way across and around, and we're going to add this front muscle. We don't need to add in every one of these tendons, the muscles, and all that good stuff. We just want to roughly block it out because we're going to do um, another pass on all of it later, where we start to add in things like, well, where are the bones protruding? Where are the landmarks of the body? All right, so let's hit tab and let's grab our sculpt brush here. And what I'm going to do is, now I'm actually going to turn on Dine Topo. And for my brush detail here, I'm just going to uh, leave it as brush detail and sort of eyeball the, let's see, let's actually hit C for clay. So grab that. Looks pretty good. It looks like I need to turn on my mirror down here, but that doesn't look too bad. I don't want to add too much geo, and I don't want to add, I don't want to have not enough geo. So that's good for now. Smoothing that out. Let's add a little bit more to the inside of the leg here. Smooth all that good stuff out. And now what we're doing is this. We're adding these two major stabilizing muscles that wrap around the knee. So let's go ahead and really isolate that, bring that knee in. Let's bring this down. I'm going to just, same as before, block in this, and then we're going to be using our draw brush in a second. Let's bring this down around the side here. Let's rotate off to the side. Same thing with this muscle here. Flushing it all out. So what I'm doing is, there's this muscle that wraps around the side here, and this ends up looking like one big chunk. So actually, let me go ahead and bring up some reference. I'm going to pause the video. A little bit better reference than this one. So what it looks like is, when we're kind of looking at the quadriceps of this guy right here, is notice that there's this giant chunk here. And this muscle here is almost like stabilizing the knee. And then what sits on top of it is, it almost looks like this other muscle wraps as like one big chunk around, and it's stabilizing the knee from the other side. And then we get that muscle that's just kind of sitting in between them. So the best thing you can do is draw that tear shape in. We'll sculpt that in. Then we'll draw this other tear shape in. And when we're sculpting this side in, it's going to actually give us that little bit of bump that we're looking for. And then we add this side. So let's go ahead and do that in the front. So here we are back in Blender. And what I'm going to do on both of these is grab my draw brush, now that I've added a little bit of that geo. And by holding Control, I'm just going to go ahead and carve in that tear shape I was telling you about. And then even though it looks like this is cutting completely in, the muscle here sits on top, and it goes all the way to the side here. Let's bring that back and hide this. And we're going to use that to just kind of go to the side of the leg here. And then underneath here, underneath our hips. So we get that. So you can see just from that alone, and then this goes underneath and up like this. So there's that teardrop, and then our knee is here. So let's go to our front view and bring this back. And notice we have this here. So what I can do is, on this view, is just like I did before, grab my clay brush, smooth out all of this stuff, just this area in here. Hit C, fill it in a little bit better. Something like that. Make sure our knee is nice and represented. It's okay to exaggerate it. We're going to add this big chunk here. Like that. And then in the end, we're going to add these muscles. That little chunk there. And it just sort of sits above this that's wrapping it underneath it. Now that we have those there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to smooth and detail that so that we have something. And remember, we're going to be remeshing this too, so you don't want to get too detail heavy. But like I said before, I like to carve out just where the muscles are, and then I smooth out that inside. All right, and then the kneecap is sort of segmented. We don't have, when we add our calves, we'll add the second knee to that. All right, so we've got this. Let's go ahead and make sure this is in there. Now the next thing is, in order to really just kind of make this, to finish off the back of the leg, I want you to just segment it, go up one side, and you're just going to draw on two muscles. Remember, we have glutes here that we're going to cover up a lot of this stuff, but I want you to think about this as two big chunks that stop halfway. So they're cut in the middle there, and they only go to the halfway point of the leg, so inside of here. And then this other muscle wraps underneath like this. And that's how you see that protrusion. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my grab brush, bring this out, and I'm actually going to pull the back of the leg to the front. And I'm going to pull this muscle in a little bit more, like that. And then I'm going to connect those. I'm going to sculpt those and connect that muscle. So something like this. Okay, and then let's get rid of that section a little bit there, and then just leave all of the segmenting down here. So we're probably going to have to go back in, lower the amount of geometry here, and then just go with one last pass of our grab brush, and then just really work on the overall silhouette, how those muscles, where the knee protrudes. So back here, I'm going to go ahead and grab my draw brush, so you can see it here. Bring this down, and just throw a straight line down the back here. This is going to be my dividing line. All right, now C for a clay brush. Bring this up, and I'm just going to fill this in a little bit more like that. And then where the back of the knee is down here, I'm going to hold Control and just carve that in. And I'm going to create two more teardrops back here, like that. So again, this is stabilizing the knee. So something like that. And let's bring our knee around. So what I'm doing too is I'm sort of adding a little bit of bone along with all the muscle stuff, otherwise our character wouldn't be sitting upright. So I think for now that's pretty good. I mean, we need to pull the pelvis out a little bit more. And like I said, we'll do a shaping phase, you know, on our character and all that good stuff later. You know what? Let's go ahead and just do it. I'm gonna save it. Let's see where we're at. And I'm just going to hit Tab, and I'm going to go to Object Mode, and I'm going to hit Shift A and add a UV sphere. And I'm just going to bring that up, hit S to scale it down, bring it back. I'm going to scale it down widthwise, like this. I'm going to go ahead and grab that mirror. So Control Tab that. Go up to our Modifier tab. Let's find our mirror here. Boop. And then we want to, I want to mirror the character, like that. Let's go ahead and go to Sculpting. And what I'm going to do here is turn off the symmetry and just sort of sculpt out the sides here. So the way it goes is it creases in, like our glutes crease in those muscles on the side, and then it's pushed down and in. And then we need to push this in a lot more like this. I'm going to smooth it out a little bit. So it comes down at an angle. Smooth this guy out as well. Just kind of pulling these muscles in and then pull them in this way. Bringing up that area. And these stabilize our hips too. So you'll see like a lot of these personal trainers and stuff, they spend a lot of time working on the lower back and the glutes for stabilization, you know. And what we're going to do is run these muscles down into into the top of our glutes, and then these in this way. So let's pull that in a little bit more. It's very pronounced. And we're going to have to, on the character himself, like we're probably going to have to pull this stuff up. So let's go ahead and select our character, tab, grab our sculpt tool, go to sculpt mode and pull this up as well from the back. And I don't have symmetry on. I want to make sure for him I do before I go ahead and boolean and all that good stuff. Let's pull these thighs in a little bit more from the back. We want to pull these muscles out. And we're going to shape all this. I keep saying that over and over again. So don't get too crazy if yours isn't perfect or doesn't look like mine. There's quite a bit of shaping of the silhouette that we need to do still. So that looks pretty good. Let's go back to object mode for both of these guys. So tab, object mode, and tab, object mode. And let's go ahead and do this. So on our glutes, we want to make sure that, select our glutes, which are here, and go to our modifier tab and hit apply, and then back to our front anatomy reference here. We are going to go ahead and grab the modifier. Let's see, where are we? Not front anatomy reference, I'm sorry, male anatomy model. And then I'm going to go to add modifier. I'm going to go to Boolean, and I'm going to select the glutes. And I'm going to go ahead and make sure it's on union. I'm going to hide these glutes and hit apply and remesh it. And there we go. And I might actually remesh it at 0.01. Might be a little too high. Let's do 0.07. I'd like to just kind of get a lot smaller. Oh, yeah, like that. Just a little bit less of a more even geo to play with there. All right, so what we'll do in the next video is finish off the calves. And then I think what we'll do is maybe we'll pick a sculpture, and then we'll move into our how do we we'll pick a sculpture of maybe Hercules or something, and we'll pose this character like that sculpture, and then we'll move on to create using this mesh as some sort of character piece. All right, and then we'll work on stuff like this. See, I'm smoothing that out, and all right, got a character coming together. It's looking pretty awesome.